by having a free and open to use what you'll see as a near permit ready design package. We're attempting here to de-risk and support infill development, which we know is nascent in many of our communities. One of the benefits of the catalog is to offer accessible options. We've achieved that through many of our designs and energy efficiency. So those of you who may be familiar with the post-war catalog that CMHC released over decades, here's some examples from 1947 through the mid-70s. We have bungalow splits, 1.5. These are all single-family homes that were quite efficient, and you'll see these in communities from across the country. A little fun factoid, Cameron and I both live in Victory Homes in Guelph and Ottawa, and we're working on the new catalog today, so that's a little extra inspiration for the two of us. But did want to highlight, it's been since the 70s that we've produced a catalog. Today's catalog is really about the modern housing needs that we have in communities across the country. So you'll see a variety of designs in the catalog, from accessory dwelling units. In some regions, these may be called accessory residential units, traditional residential units, coach houses, laneway suites, garden suites, coach houses. There's a variety of terms, but we're talking about detached ADUs that can add additional options on an existing lot with room for an accessory suite. Rows and towns is a category that includes various different strategies based on the region, but for the most part is about providing multiple units either side by side or in a stacked format that can repeat as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 units depending on the lot size. We have fourplexes, so these are single building fourplexes in each region, and they are typically, there's a narrow fourplex for a narrower lot and a wider fourplex for a wider lot. We did commission some work at the start of the catalog process to look at standard lot sizes in each region across the country, and those lot widths and depths tend to inform the narrow and the wider fourplexes, as well as some of our other designs. And we also have sixplexes. So the design that you see here is the Ontario sixplex. It's quite a sixplex. Pardon me. It's quite a compact built form. Provides 6 units on a similar lot to a narrower fourplex in the Ontario context. I thought what I might do, if folks haven't had a chance to go on our website and play around with the 50 designs, you can do that. Feel free to do that later or while I'm chatting. There's lots of information to interact with, but I thought it might be helpful to just share a region here in terms of what kind of designs we have, what that means for unit mix, unit size, that kind of thing. So I'm going to walk through Ontario, and I believe I have British Columbia as well, to give a sense of what's in the catalog. So for Ontario, we have 2 accessory dwelling units, 2 ADUs. One is a 1-story unit, one's 2 with a carport. The 1-story unit is a 1-bed, 1-bath accessible ready unit, and I'll explain our accessible ready philosophy a little bit later. But essentially, this provides either a unit that can be fully accessible at the get-go, or converted in the future at much lower cost and effort than a design that hadn't thought about these principles from the get-go. So we have that for ADU 1. For ADU 2, this is a 2-story unit with living space on the main floor and 3 beds and 1 bath on the upper. Quite a large accessory dwelling unit, a family size unit than what you typically see in the market today. In terms of stacked towns, and imagine this might be a relevant typology for the community housing sector on some sites. We have 2 stacked towns. They basically differ in terms of the building width for the key building component here. These are shown as staggered designs. They could be built with a flush front without the stagger as well. And the narrower of the 2 stacked townhouse 1 is a combination of a 1-bed, 1-bath ground floor unit and a 3-bed, 2-bath upper floor unit. We've really tried to prioritize throughout the housing design catalog a unit mix, and also achieving as many family size 3-4 bed units as possible through the designs. And stacked house 2, townhouse 2 provides a 1-bath one bed, one bath accessible ready unit on the ground floor, and a 4-bed, 2-bath family size unit on the upper floors, with the kitchen and dining space on the top floor.
Daniel, sorry to interrupt. We see your computer's about to restart, is blocking the, perfect, thank
There we
you.
go. Sorry, thank you. It's gone. All right. Thankfully, my computer is not about to restart, so I'll continue here. The Ontario designs, we have fourplex 1, is a 1-bed, 1-bath ground floor unit that can also be a second unit that can be accessible ready, and a 2-bed and a 3-bed family size units as well. And then fourplex 2, you can sort of see the difference in the unit mix. We have 4 units between 2 and 3 bedrooms over 2 stories. So think of fourplex 1 as a more narrow urban lot. I can't remember the exact frontage, but let's say 10 or 12 meter lot width. And then fourplex 2 would be a more standard 50 foot frontage lot that you'd see in a lot of post-war suburban communities. And then we have our sixplex, which is 5 2-bed, 1-bath units and a 1-bed, 1-bath accessible ready unit as well. So that gives you a sense of the Ontario designs. I'll quickly go through the BC designs as well. We have our accessory dwelling unit, very similar to the Ontario design, a 2-story ADU with an extra bedroom that could be, in this image here, shows this as a laneway access unit. We have a larger duplex front and back, similar to what you might see in the Vancouver market right now. And we have a row house with adaptability in mind from the get-go that can be repeated side by side on a site that works. And for our fourplexes, we have our narrow fourplex and our wider lot fourplex. I'll just highlight there's some differences in unit mix here from the Ontario designs, function of the lot size that we've assumed and the approach of the architect. We also have a courtyard sixplex here. So rather than being a single building, it has a front building with 4 units and a back building with 2 more. One neat feature I might just share about the BC designs, we do have a lot of sites with slope. The architects have designed approaches here where the front and back units can go sort of up and down on a site and take advantage of slope. So we've seen some experimentation with that already, and maybe useful for anyone looking at these designs from British Columbia. Okay, I'm just going to share a little bit about the core design principles for the catalog. So the first one that really is key is the fact that these designs are regionally informed. That means our climate zones, construction methods, of course, typical zoning and building code in each jurisdiction. And we have separate teams in each region, architecture and engineering teams, with many sub-consultants who develop each of the 7 chapters of the catalog. So it's 50 designs across 7 regions. We know how important it is that we have a catalog with regionality. You'll see on the images on the bottom here on the left are designs from our chapter for the Yukon NWT and Nunavut. One of the unique features in that region is we have designs both for municipally service sites and also tanked service sites. We also have designs that, especially for the tanked options, use a multi-point foundation which appropriate for context with permafrost. So let's just give one example of the differences. Our Quebec chapter uses 0 lot line options and has a different sort of look and feel that's consistent with architecture in Quebec. So I just underscore there's a lot of regionality in the catalog. In terms of adaptability and accessibility, so we worked with Accessibility Standards Canada on an approach to accessible ready and enhanced accessible designs. So accessible ready designs can be converted to an accessible unit much more easily than homes designed without adaptability in mind. We're looking at things like location of structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, having kitchens in a location that can remain if the unit's converted in the future. And then we have our enhanced accessible architectural layouts that are aligned with the principles of CSA B652. So Cameron's going to show after the slides, when we walk through a design set, you can see how these principles have carried into our design packages. I can share that this really was an important component of our feedback on the catalog and our design work with the architects. So we're quite pleased to be able to provide those solutions off the get-go for a variety of users. In terms of energy performance and climate, the key point to take away is we did target a higher than code minimum energy efficiency performance level. So NBC 2020 Tier 3 in British Columbia, Step 4 of the Energy Step Code. Users can modify these packages to their preferred energy performance tier, either go down to code minimum or look at Tier 4 or net zero options. But we're confident that these designs do meet Tier 3 and Step 4, and we provide energy modeling resources to support users with determining their energy performance level. We also have life cycle analysis and other guides to help with this as well. So another key element of our design process. And the last one I'll talk about here is financial feasibility. So obviously built into the notion of using a standardized design is the ability to be able to take advantage of a predictable cost, a faster process ahead of construction. And in speaking with the team at CRHA, I think this is really one of the places where the catalog might have real value for all of you and your projects during that pre-development phase. So we have Class B construction cost estimates. These are based on the prototypical plans that you can now download. They don't include things like site-specific, conditions. If you had a serious slope or some excavation that we can't anticipate because these were designed without a site, but they do take into account all of the core building elements and provide a reliable starting point for a pro forma. And these cost estimates are provided with a low and high end range. We know there's a range of factors that will go into building. We expect that users who use the catalog designs and repeat them over time will be able to achieve efficiencies on that basis. But material selection obviously is a variable that can change costing as well. And as mentioned here on the slide, absolutely standardized designs can support prefab and offsite construction. These were designed as stick built with the potential for hybrid construction. We know that potential is there, and if you're using those solutions, you may be able to achieve construction savings and or time savings, which has an impact on the pro forma. So these, what's on the left of the screen here is just a snippet of the construction cost estimate summary. There's one provided for each region. There's also a handy table in each of those documents that gives a breakdown of the unit mix, leasable a square foot for each of the units, and gives all the details that you need to understand what's in and out of the construction cost estimate. Okay, so earlier this year in March, we released the summary packages, and you may have seen this back in March for the designs. At the time, we released our 2 and 3D representations of the designs, floor plans, and illustrative renderings. I'll note the renderings are just one expression of these buildings. Users can really make their own look and feel based on cladding selection, color, and other aesthetic changes. But we did ask our architects to provide one expression on the design. So that's what you see on the website there. And this information has stayed constant for our full release, which happened last month. So you can now go on the website, select designs, and Cameron's going to show you exactly how the website's laid out, and download architectural and engineering drawings for all 50 designs in various formats. So PDF, CAD, and BIM. Our energy model template and guidance, and our design summary. So those are all available for individual designs. And then we have technical supports that are relevant for any user of the catalog. So the user guide, I'll get into these in a second. We're also going to release a regional site plan example soon. We're working with our municipal partners to make sure we get this just right, but basically it'll help users understand if you have a lot of a certain dimension, you're interested in a certain design, how might that site plan work? How might you accommodate parking and other requirements on a given lot dimension? So here's a snapshot of the user guide. I really recommend folks take a look at the user guide for an understanding of our design principles and the steps that are needed when using these near permit ready designs, working with a qualified professional. That could be a licensed architect, engineer, or designer to finalize the designs for a specific site and project. So the user guide goes into things like our planning and site assumptions, accessibility, which I've spoken about already, adding or extending eaves and overhangs, looking at alternative approaches to foundation, adding basements, energy performance. So variety of topics really intended to be a helpful starting point to contextualize what the design packages have, what's left to do, and how you'd work with a qualified professional. I won't spend too much time here because Cameron's going to do a walkthrough, but just to give a snapshot of what is in the actual drawing packages when you download them. We do have the building performance reports that I mentioned. So these will take for each design, we'll take a prototypical location for the prototypical design and do an energy model, and it'll show the operational energy, embodied carbon assumptions for that design. And we do hope that's helpful for folks who are interested in understanding the energy and carbon impact at the some assumed performance level of Tier 3 or Step 4 in BC. We also have a companion climate resiliency resilience guide, and this really looks at more site level strategies to improve resilience of these designs for various regional climate risks, heat waves, wildfires, drought, permafrost, flooding, and storms. All of these are featured. It's a little bit small on the screen here, but if you take a look at each design, each flood climate risk, there's a series of potential measures that users may want to take to reduce climate risk. I can share in terms of the catalog overall a couple of strategies that we've taken that are a good starting point in terms of resilience. One, all of our designs are designed with dwelling units at grade or above. Users can make the choice to add a basement unit or basement storage, but as they are in the prototypical plans, they're all at grade or above. Obviously, that helps for locating these designs in areas with flood risk. Likewise, in terms of the building envelope, our designers have focused on a good building envelope, both for occupant comfort, for energy performance. There's also benefits in terms of resilience. So those are strategies that we've taken. We have mechanical optionality that includes heat pump options as well. So all to say, and mechanical cooling options. All to say, we've taken some high-level design approaches in terms of resilience, but this guide is intended to help with the broader site context that we don't have visibility to with the prototypical designs. We also have produced a materials guide. So this provides users with data on cost, durability, and environmental impact of various materials that will be left to select as an end user. So that's cladding, roofing, insulation, membranes, sheathing, windows, and exterior doors. You can see here in the image at the bottom for each of those categories, we have common material types, embodied carbon intensity, upfront cost, lifespan, and relative life cycle cost. These are on a relative basis amongst the various options. And the firm that we had as part of our broader catalog team prepared the resilience guide and this materials guide for users. So hopefully that's a helpful added complement as well. So how will the catalog work? I think this is probably the most important question that we get in meetings and presentations. These designs are not yet fully pre-approved or done for a site. These are prototypical. We've made assumptions on various elements like grade and limiting distance to a neighboring site or the lot line, but they're best described as near permit ready. And users will need to work with a licensed qualified professional to finalize their design to create what our terms and conditions call a derived design and then make a building permit application. So I like to think of it as if you take a design like ours and you have a very similar lot condition, lot dimension, proximity to neighboring buildings, if you use a design that has a slab on grade foundation and you stick with the slab on grade foundation, then the scope of work that's left for the qualified professional is to ensure that all the elements make sense for that site. And to submit, if you have to make more extensive changes, obviously the scope of that work is greater. So in an ideal scenario, we've taken a big head start in that design process, and are providing a free to use tool for end users that can make it easier and cheaper to build these kind of homes. You'll all be familiar with this, but just to underscore the kind of issues that a qualified professional will need to think about when finalizing design include zoning compliance. So we've done our best to think about common zoning conditions. Every lot has its own zoning context. Obviously, those rules are ones that need to be looked at for a specific site. How to manage parking access, bike storage, and waste management. These are common site conditions that need to be considered, whether a site has laneway access, street access, the parking ratio that may be through regulation locally or maybe through market need or your project need. All of these things can vary considerably and impact how viable a design may be versus another. Grading and drainage, foundations, basements, and crawl space. I'll just underscore again, all of our designs have dwelling units on grade or above with mechanical in suite, but if there is a benefit or a site-specific reason to pursue a crawl space, basement, or alternative solution for foundation, the designs are there and can be modified accordingly. Same with building orientation and siting. If you're interested in looking at a higher energy performance tier than our base, this will be critical. But only something that can be known for a specific site. Obviously, servicing and utility requirements with hydro connections can create some limitations on a site, so that'll have to be looked at for each project. And then cladding and material selection, these are things that we've left as placeholders in the design packages and need to be confirmed by users. Here's our very high-level pathway of how this process works. So you're an end user, you're a builder, you're a developer. You come in, you select the designs you're interested in on our website. You can accept our terms and conditions, download the full technical packages, hire a locally licensed qualified professional, confirm your site considerations, develop a more detailed site plan than what we have in the package right now. Choose between our accessible ready and enhanced accessible layouts, confirm your material selection and mechanical systems, any other site risks, climate conditions and risks that are relevant, and then submit your design for permit. We're really confident that we can save all that time, but there is some work to do that's can only be related to a specific project and site. So one of the things I get to work on at CMHC with our municipal relations team is encourage local governments to pre-review these designs, either some or all from their region, from a general code and zoning compliance perspective. And really the idea is to have municipalities, and we hope to have our list here grow. But here's I featured some that are early adopters of the catalog, providing more predictability to users about where a design is not only supported but welcome, and ensuring that from the municipal perspective, there's comfort with these designs as prototypical already. So, that helps reduce the risk of a code interpretation question or a longer review process. We're really trying to make this as fast, as streamlined as possible. So the municipalities that are listed here from across the country are our first cohort of early adopters. All of these municipalities have pre-reviewed some or all designs for code and zoning compliance and provided more information on their own websites about the kind of details they'd want to see in a permit application. Really, this is connecting the free to use designs, which de-risk this type of development and can speed up performance with a streamlined review process, which can also de-risk development and help with performance. Together, that's an even better offer, I think, for developments that you might be considering in your communities. I'll highlight here a couple of notes. So you might see, and this is from a list on our website, a couple of communities are taking extra steps to look at how to incorporate designs in their own fast track process. And that would be an extra step that they'll be looking at and announcing in the coming months. And then you have a range of approaches here. So I'll just highlight a bit randomly, Town of Ajax is pre-reviewed the two ADUs and fourplexes from Ontario. Those align with the zoning that's in place in Ajax right now. And that's great, provides certainty for the market. And then you have other communities here where the designs that we've produced align generally with zoning for all designs in the region. So Kitchener has all 7 Ontario designs listed here. I'll also highlight the other cities in our early adopter cohort, Toronto, St. John, Halifax, and Whitehorse and Yellowknife as well. These are all cities that have pre-reviewed. Really encourage you, take a look at our website, look at the municipal websites for each of these. If you're operating in these communities, really hopeful this will help provide more certainty if considering using these designs for a project. Okay, so I'm going to just sum up here what I've shared so far, and then I'll pass it off to Cameron. So what is the catalog? We're a free-to-use standardized design tool. It's 50 designs across 7 regions, focused on gentle density and standardization for ADUs, rows, plexes. Really encourage folks to start with the region that you're operating in. That will provide you a package that aligns with your zoning code, climate conditions, construction methods. If you want to get really creative and look outside of region, that is possible. It does raise the bar for the kind of work your qualified professional might need to do. You may not be able to benefit from a municipal pre-review the same way as working in your own region per the last 2 slides, but it is possible. And consider the resources that we've provided in terms of energy performance, accessibility, and financial feasibility as well. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will pass it over to Cameron.
Thanks, Daniel. So I'm just going to share my screen and take that over. Ooh, looks like CHRA has to approve my request to share screen, but I'm just going to start with a walkthrough of our actual website, and then I'll follow that up by walking through one of our actual design packages for just as an example.
Pretty good to go now. Sorry about that, Cameron.
Okay, thank you. Okay, should be good to go now. Just confirming that you can see my screen. Yeah, so this is our main page of our website. I won't click through every single aspect of our website, but just there's a few things that I would like to highlight, that might be of interest and help source some of our resources for those of you interested in checking them out. So when you get to the main page, what you can do is look through the top. There's different tabs here for things like our FAQs, a list of local partners, those technical resources that Daniel mentioned, as well as the designs themselves, and then an about page, which includes different articles and blog style posts about different catalog related topics that will be updated on an ongoing basis. But the first thing I did want to just highlight would be those additional resources that Daniel was talking about. So if you click on the How It Works page and then go to resources, you'll be brought to this page where we'll be able to download the user guide, the climate resilience guide, our materials guide, as well as our construction cost estimate documents for each region. These are the same documents that Daniel went over in the slides. One other thing of note as well is at the bottom of this page, we will be updating soon with our site design examples for each region. I guess sort of set up similar to the costing, and that there will be one document for each region. So we encourage you to check back to this page in the coming months once the site uh, design examples will be made available. And really, if I were to make one suggestion for anybody looking to learn more about the catalog, I would suggest starting with the user guide. It's the first one listed on this page. It's really a good starting point to provide some background on the catalog, what it is, what went into it, what were the design principles, and basically how a user would interact with the catalog. So I would suggest starting with the user guide. So that is it for the resources page. The next thing I wanted to go into is the local partners page. That was the last part of Daniel's slides, showing which municipalities have agreed to adopt or pre-review the catalog designs. So if you go again at the top of the screen to the How It Works tab, you can click on Local Partners, and it will bring you to this Local Partners page. And then if you scroll down, you'll see that same table that Daniel was presenting earlier, which highlights which municipalities across the country have adopted the catalog, which designs they're adopting, links to their website, and other key information. And so this was obviously up to date as of our launch last month, but we will be updating this page with additional local partners as they're brought on board going forward. Yeah, so that's the local partners page. I think now I would like to take you through the actual designs. So again, if you go to the top of our website page, you can click on designs. And this is where you'll see at the moment all 50 of the actual designs that we've released across the country. They're all listed here when you first click on it, but what you can do is actually filter by design type. So by accessory dwelling unit, duplex, triplex, fourplex, rows, towns, or sixplexes, and also filter by region as well. So just as an example, let's say we were looking for the Ontario sixplex design, you can filter by Ontario and then by sixplex, and that will show you that design there on the page. And then we'll just dive into that specific design. So for each of our designs, if you click on it, more information will be brought up on the webpage. You can see here that it provides a rendering, a 3D AXO view of the building itself. Lower down on the page, floor plans are also provided that you can click through to see how the building has been laid out. And that also does show, as Daniel was mentioning, those sort of base accessible ready designs as well as the enhanced accessible layouts as well, where applicable. So those are the floor plans. And then on each design page, what I would like to highlight next is that there are a couple of things that can actually be downloaded. The first being, you'll see here highlighted, is the summary package. Summary package, I pre-downloaded this here. If you click on download, basically for each design, it provides a key building stats, including number of units, number of bedrooms and bathrooms per unit, information about the building geometry, so its height, roof midpoints, height, width, and depth of the building, and footprint. And then further down, it does also again provide those floor plans. So there's one of these documents available for each of our designs that you can download from the website. They're kind of a good starting point just to explore the designs, learn some kind of high-level information about them. And then at that point, you can kind of decide if you'd like to learn more and download sort of our full technical package, which I'll go into now. So if you go back to the main design page, you can then click on the technical package. And so this, if you choose to download this is basically all of those information and resources, drawing files, energy modeling files that Daniel was mentioning in the slides. So you basically would click on download package. It brings you to our user terms and conditions page. So in order to access the actual design files, you'll need to review and agree to our terms and conditions, input some information, contact information, your email, and then you click accept and download. I have pre-downloaded this one just to avoid any technical issues, and I'll show you here. But basically, when you click download after accepting the terms and conditions, you'll get a zip folder with all of the design files. Once you unzip the folder, you will get what is shown here, and I'll just kind of quickly walk through what is in that folder. Might be hard to see. I'm just trying to. make that a bit larger. So in each folder for each design, there is basically the building information file, the BIM files for the design here, which would be useful for those architects and engineers looking to work with the files. There's also all of the AutoCAD files. These are arranged by design discipline. So there's the architectural drawing files, mechanical, electrical sets, the structural drawings. And then just for ease of finding what's in there, we do also have a list of those drawings as well provided in that folder. So that's the CAD files. We do have a folder for energy and carbon information. So that would be the building performance report that Daniel mentioned. So that summarizes your operational carbon or energy and carbon information. And then to support that, there is also an energy model file, a Hot 2000 energy model file made available too. That would be useful for any users looking to model the actual energy performance of their building or pursue a modeled pathway for code compliance. And then back in the main folder, there's a few other PDFs that I'll talk about. So the user guide is provided here for ease of reference, as well as the actual terms and conditions themselves. Obviously, you have to click through the terms and conditions in order to download this, but we do want to provide them here just so people can refer back to them. There's a number of things in the terms and conditions that you'll need to be aware of, including things like applying necessary disclaimers when you work with our designs, the need to work with relevant qualified professionals such as architects, engineers. That's all included in our folder. And the last thing in the folder is the actual design drawing itself in a PDF form. See here, I'll click through it and walk through in a second. But this is basically all the same information that's in the CAD and BIM files, just shown in a PDF format for ease of viewing. So that's it for the download folder. I think now I will walk through the actual design file itself for this one. So this is obviously the PDF drawing set for on the Ontario Region 6plex. I'll start by saying that all 50 of our designs were kind of set up the same way, so they're organized the same way. The content will be set up similarly. We follow a similar template for all designs. So once you've seen what's in one design, it will be similar for all 50. That being said, each design or each region was designed by a different architect and engineering team. So specifics about the design content, design approach, assumptions, and even typical details and things like that will vary by region, but sort of the overall organization will be the same. But yeah, just to start through this package, it includes basically everything that you would need to submit for a building permit. So there's architectural sets, structural sets, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing sets. And we'll start here just through the architectural. As you can see, just sort of key general information, building data, listing of the sheets that are in the package, legends, abbreviations, things like that, typical to a normal construction drawing set. But as you work your way through, actually, sorry, I'll stop there. One thing I do want to highlight is this sort of not for permit or construction marking on this drawing set. It's important to know that the PDF drawing sets that we're putting out there, they're not ready for construction immediately. I think Daniel mentioned that they're in that kind of 80 to 90% of the way there to be ready for use. So you can't really print off this PDF and submit it to your building department as is. You do need to work with a qualified professional to make necessary modifications and revisions to the drawing set for your actual site. So just wanted to highlight that. I'll work my way through the architectural set here. The first page you get into is your building assembly, so your wall assemblies, roof assemblies, floor, other partitions. I'll zoom in here just on the wall assembly, just as an example. There's both a W1 and a W2 assembly. Obviously, these will vary by region, but for this one, there's two provided. One being the exterior wall, and then two being a sort of a non-combustible version of that wall. But one thing I'll highlight about these assemblies is that you'll see some of the text is in red. And the reason for that is that these items in red are effectively what a user and their qualified professional will need to review, make design selections for, and sort of finalize for their use of the design. So you can see here that, for example, the exterior cladding layer is left as a placeholder, as a lightweight cladding placeholder. that just means that the end user has to go and actually pick what cladding material they want to work with, review it with their qualified professional to ensure that the structure can handle the loading of that cladding material, combustibility requirements are met, things like that. But it is up for the user to select. The other thing I would like to highlight too about these assemblies is the insulation values. So you can see that we are showing an exterior continuous insulation layer as well as a stud cavity insulation as well. The specific insulation materials and products, those are not defined in our drawings. That's up for the end user to select. But we have provided sort of what thermal performance values, R values you would need to achieve if you want to sort of align performance with what we're showing. So we picked these thermal performance values based on two things. One was to ensure that you would comply with sort of prescriptive code minimums for insulation value, regardless of where you were in your region. That if you pick these values, you should be fine, and regardless of where you are. But also, secondly, to align with the higher than code minimum energy performance that Daniel brought up earlier. We did conduct energy modeling of these designs using these typical insulation values, just to determine that yes, if you model it with these insulation, this level of insulation, you should hit that NDC 2020 Tier 3 energy performance target. So yeah, so those are there. Again, users will need to sort of review and finalize exactly what the installation will look like, but it's there for them to start with. The roofing assembly is very similar approach to the walls, so I won't dive into those too much, but I'll move through now. You can see that we have door and window schedules with dimensions and other information provided. Key details for fire rating and other typical details. I won't go through all of these, but just as an example, you can see typical window head details, skylight detail, soffit and door head detail. So there's a number of sort of key details you need for construction, typical to what you'd see in a set at this level of detail. Working my way through more details. This page is our site plan page. I'd like to highlight a few things on this one. So you can see that we do show a very sort of generic prototypical site plan in this set. Obviously, in practice, when you're using these designs, your site plan, your site may not align exactly with these dimensions, but we are showing these as a means of sort of conveying what our assumptions were for the site, what our assumed setbacks were, and things like that. So in practice, when someone is using these designs, they'll have to basically replace the site plan with the actual dimensions of their site, review and confirm the setbacks are in compliance with zoning, and things like that. So a lot of questions we get are that, can you only build these buildings on a site plan of this dimension? The answer is no. Obviously, if your site is bigger, this design will still work. Even if it's slightly smaller, there's possibility, depending on your zoning and setbacks, that you could make it work. But it's something for the user to work with a professional to confirm through the design process. The next thing I'll show on this page is our code matrix. This highlights a lot of the sort of building code assumptions that went into the design. Again, the items in red are something that the user will need to verify with their qualified professional. So depending on your site and location and how close you are to other buildings and things like that, you'll need to look at your calculations for spatial separation, limiting distance, and things like that. But again, we've provided this here as a starting point for users to work with. I'll leave it there on site plan and continue through. The next thing we get into is our floor plans. So the first two floor plans are for the ground floor. And the key thing I'd want to highlight about the ground floor plans is that the accessible ready and enhanced accessible versions of the plans. Daniel mentioned these earlier in the slides, but effectively we've provided two different floor plan options for the ground floor in this design. The first being accessible ready, meaning that the design it's actually unit 2 on the right here. It can be easily converted to a layout which would align with the principles of the B652 accessibility standard. So it's adaptable in that kitchens and bathrooms wouldn't be moving around too much, limited movement of walls, would need to be done to sort of align with that accessible layout. The other thing to note about this accessible ready design is that it would also comply with sort of the code minimum accessibility requirements of the region, so that if you did build this unit layout as shown, you would be complying with code accessibility. Then I'll kind of just try to show the differences between the two layouts. If you look at the next sheet, it's probably a bit tricky to see, but zooming in effectively, what has changed is in order to get the clearances in the bedroom, the closet had to be removed. We're showing clearances in the washroom, which would be a roll-in shower, as well as in the kitchen, similar thing. And then the laundry changed from a stacked washer dryer to a sort of side-by-side, more accessible version of a laundry. And so if you look at the sheets sort of one after the other, you can kind of really see the full differences of our layouts. The other thing to highlight as well on these enhanced accessible sheets is that we provided a very detailed legend about very specific items within the B652 standard and how users would need to comply with them, including sort of dimensions and other key notes. So you can see there's legend items for doors and doorways, washrooms, kitchen, bedrooms, laundry, and closets. And so we worked very closely with ASC on developing this legend, and it was based on their standards. So it's definitely a very useful tool for users looking to align their designs with that standard. Okay, I will then keep going through the floor plan, second floor plan, third floor plan. These ones do not have accessible layouts. They're just the one standard layout. We have our roof plan, elevations. The one thing I'll highlight about the elevations is that building heights are shown in red on the right. These dimensions are based on assumptions for grade. So these exact height numbers will need to be confirmed based on the actual specifics of your site. So is the grade sloping? Is it lower? The numbers might vary a little bit in practice. Continuing through the elevations, we have our building sections as well. You can see that fire separations are shown in purple lines. The one thing I wanted to highlight on the sections is actually the foundation, which is also, again, an item shown in a dashed line in red. The way foundations have been approached in our design packages, they're more fully detailed in the structural set. But we've made assumptions to design sort of a prototypical foundation type for each building. Now, this was done obviously without knowing the exact site or sort of soil conditions that the building will be built on. So the reason that we're highlighting it as an item in red to be verified is that, depending on your soil conditions, foundation type that we're showing may not work. And so it's up to the user to work with their qualified professional to sort of review the foundation in the context of their site, their soil conditions, to make sure that it will work, modify it, or design a new foundation if needed. But it is possible that it will work if the assumptions of the actual site align with what we're showing in our drawing. And then the full foundation design is detailed further in the structural set. So that's sections. Coming through, yeah, I'll finish off the architectural there and get into the structural. There's a lot of information on this page, a lot of text. I won't bore you with all of that, but I'll just show you a few key things. So one would be the assumptions for climate conditions and sort of design loads in the structural approach. As I said earlier, each region uses a different structural engineer as per their design team, so the approach does vary a little bit depending on what region you're in. But for the Ontario designs, the way that this worked was basically that the structural engineer made sort of a worst case design assumption for your snow loading, your wind and seismic loading. So you can see here that the items in red are the locations for the assumed snow loading, seismic and wind loading. And the way this approach works is that basically given that it's a sort of a worst case scenario, that the structural design will work effectively anywhere in the region, because worst case loading was used. Users may consider sort of value engineering that down if they wanted to, but that's up to them. They can proceed with the design as is, working with their qualified professional. So that's structural loading assumptions, key details, and other specification information provided on the sheet. There are the structural plans for framing provided on the next one as well. Um, Framing and key structural members, as well as the foundation layout too. That's typical across our sets. Key structural details are provided as well. And that sort of wraps up the structural set. The next and sort of the last part of the drawing set gets into the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. To start this section, I'll just note that for each of our region, each of our designs, there were different options included for mechanical HVAC systems. So depending on what region you're in, there's sort of different combinations of electric and gas systems, furnaces, heat pumps, hydronic systems. You'll have to look at the specific designs for that information, but just to know that there's different options for users to pick from. And so as we walk through the set, you'll see that there's different specifications pages for each of those options. So there's a base option, alternate option 1, 2, and 3. So the Ontario set has 4 different HVAC options. A lot of text in these specs, so I won't go through that, but just note that they are there. And then electrical specs as well are provided. And then after that, you get into sort of typical installation details for each of those HVAC system options. So again, similar to the specs, there's sort of one sheet provided for each of those alternate options. So you can see it starts with a furnace and electric hot water tank, and it gets into a hydronic system as well after that. So given that there's different mechanical options provided in the sets, users will have to pick through which one they want and sort of finalize that design for their location, for their climatic location, things like heat loss calculations, energy efficiency summary, final mechanical unit sizing, that'll need to be done as kind of a final step to get this design to permit. And then the last things that I'll go through in the set, there are basically layouts for plumbing, electrical, and HVAC for each of the floors. So you can see that plumbing, electrical layers are provided for each floor, third floor as well, and similarly HVAC layers showing locations of units, ductwork, things like that. And that basically takes me to the end of this set. I think I'll stop it there. Daniel, let me know if there's anything else you want to add to this, but I'll pass it
Oh,
back
that's
to you.
great. I know there was, we can speak quickly to the questions in the chat and the Q&A, and one of them was on the multiple options for HVAC systems. And you can just highlight quickly, Cameron, just the higher performing options, the full electric option, just for everyone's benefit.
Yeah. So there's different options. So the exact optionality kind of depends on region, but we tried to show a base option that was very commonly installed within the region. Sort of the base option. We did that in consultation with our architect and our mechanical designer. But then each region would then show different options. So there would typically be something like a higher performing option involving a heat pump or an all electric option shown as well. So they're all laid out in the sets for users to pick from.
Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you very much, Daniel, as well. I'm going to get to some of the questions that are in the chat in the time that we have remaining. But first, a question from me. And Daniel, we've had conversations. I really love that the Class B budget, as much as possible, is included. I love that there's pre-review from a growing list of municipalities. I think those are important things. Is there a plan to expand the catalog, particularly with more multi-residential designs?
Yeah, at the time, the 50 designs are what we have. We did get some feedback from some of our local and provincial partners earlier in the year. So we are actually going to be adding a couple of fourplexes to the Prairie and Atlantic regions, and an additional accessory suite, a garage suite in the territory. So that'll take us to 53. Those designs are being finalized right now. Can't speak to expansions past that, but as I've shared with you, Ray, we'd love to hear from any potential user on where you think the designs can work, would work better, potential future. Happy to receive that input and take it into account.
Yeah, great answer. And there's a lot of opportunity there. So a couple of quick questions from the chat. Earl wants to know, are there hard copies of the plans available?
Yeah, right now this is a plan for 2025 with the digital download in various formats. If you're having trouble with that, we can share our catalog at CMHC-SCHL.ca and get in touch with us, and we'll see if we can help with an alternative. But we're providing a digital package here.
Super.
Well, then I'll add to that users, you could print off PDFs of the drawing sets and our summary packages as well if you wanted to.
Nobody wants to pay for those giant printers that give you
I know.
plan-sized printouts. Larry's asking, where are the Class B budgets provided? Is that in the zip file that gets downloaded?
Yeah, so Cameron had shared it in the walkups. You go on the top bar on the nav bar, how it works, resources, and the user guide, climate guide, and costing are all there.
Excellent. Okay, so a couple of other questions from SB. How did you apply Canadian demographics to determine who the homes were being designed for, and did you take a regional approach?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We took a couple of lenses at the beginning in terms of reflecting on the feedback that came in from our engagement before the RFP was issued, which really talked about a unit mix, prioritizing family size units. So I think I shared the unit mix in the Ontario and BC chapters. Most of the time, our designs try to provide a one bed and a family size, multiple options. So we're meeting various needs. We hope that overall that can provide solutions that will make sense and align with some of your project needs. And there may be creative ways to combine on larger sites or assemblies, looking at multiple buildings to meet the kind of target unit mix. But our general approach that was to provide that kind of mix and also have as many family size units as possible.
Excellent. And Lori is asking if Build Canada Homes will be offering incentives for using the catalog for non-market housing.
It's a very good question, and one neither of us are really equipped to answer, but certainly know that the catalog's part of the federal toolbox around standardization, which I know we share that goal with BCH.
And then Maria asked a question about Part 3 MURBs being added to the catalog following Part 9 MURBs. I think you've already answered that already there. And a question from SV in the chat. Which of the 50 archetypes do you see being the most popular in terms of adoption?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't mind speculating on that one. So we certainly have had some of our early interest and traffic to our website, lots of interest in the accessory suites. So I think that might get initial uptake, but I think over time, see a lot of potential in the stacked town and row house options because they would lend themselves quite well to providing multi-unit options on narrower lots, wider lots, with assemblies and some modification. I think that might be interesting for you and your network, looking at your non-typical standard residential lot. So we'll see if we're right about that, but I do think there's quite a lot of potential there for the towns and rows.
We're a little bit over time, so I'm going to ask one more question from the Q&A before we wrap up. And Melinda is asking, or saying, commenting as well as a question. We are panelizing the designs with our seed enclosure systems, and we have suggestions that would optimize panelization and potentially reduce costs while maintaining the core design features. Will there be an opportunity to add engineered panel packages to the catalog? PFAB and factory-based production's on everyone's mind, so it's a good question I wanted to include.
It's a really great question. Cameron, do you want to answer first?
Yeah, I would just want to say that, yeah, like part of our goal here is that, these design package would be taken up by the prefab market and manufacturers, and panelize would obviously be a great solution for many of our designs. As Daniel mentioned earlier, like they were designed first as stick built kind of site built designs, but the principle of aligning with prefab was part of the thinking as well. So I think, yeah, there's definitely opportunity for them to be taken up by a prefab manufacturer, panelized manufacturer.
Excellent. And we do need to wrap up now. I want to say that, at CHRA we're focused on non-market housing and figuring out ways to scale up the supply of non-market housing. there's a lot of different solutions and there's a lot of promise in this possibility as well. I hope there's opportunities to keep expanding the catalog, marrying it with offsite and factory-based production to do it at scale, expanding the catalog with more multi-residential as well. This is a really, really encouraging format and process that you've developed here. So thank you very much to both of you, Daniel and Cameron. Thank you everyone who was able to join us for this webinar as well.
Thanks very much, Ray. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Mel, our host who kicked things off and organizes the entire webinar series at CHRA. I hope some of you will also join us tomorrow for the CHRA Book Club, where we're looking at Gregor Craigie's book, Our Crumbling Foundation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all, everyone.
Thank you.